Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, all you wonderful, wonderful F1 fans out there, not just in the home of F101 Calgary, Alberta, Canada, but around the world. If you're hearing my voice, I can only mean two things. At one, my name is Kelsey, and two, you are listening to the newest edition of F101. And as always, we're going to start this episode off with the hot topics. This is everything you need to know in the world of F1. Massive, massive news coming out of Aston Martin. Adrian Newey is now the new team principal, at least for the end of the 2025 season. Yes, it's only 2 more races, but this is a massive step. He will have, who knows, he could be the new team principal for 2026 as well. We do not know how long this job extension is going to go. Adrian Newey is one of those guys where he's really, really good at developing the car. He is amazing at developing the car for the drivers that a team has, Red Bull specifically. I can understand why he wants this more responsibility in Aston Martin. He can then tone the car and tune the car to the drivers that they have. Now, I'm really hoping for Aston Martin fans, for the team itself, and for the car development, that he will have a massive say in who the drivers are for 2026. Fernando Alonso has it after 2026. Because Fernando Alonso's got a contract till the end of 2027, and Lance Stroll doesn't actually have a confirmed end date of when his contract will be. But in my opinion, I think if Adrian Newey comes in and goes, hey, I'm developing this car for this specific way and you don't fit, we need to replace you, I think Lawrence Stroll will listen to Adrian Newey. It's the whole reason why they brought him in, the whole reason why they're developing the car a certain way. This also means that Christian Horner will not be joining Aston Martin at all, period, not even in the near future when Adrian Newey decides to step down as team principal. If he even decides to step down as team principal, I think this is the best development for Aston Martin. They needed a good, swift kick in development. They needed a different direction for the team. I think this is the perfect direction that this team can go in. And that's not even the most exciting hot topic news that we've got for you today. Red Bull, it's unofficial. They're going to announce it tomorrow, but I'm going to call it right now. Red Bull will be making a decision on the 2026 driver lineup. It's officially going to be called December 2nd, 2025, which is tomorrow at the time of recording, but I'm calling it right now. It's going to be Max Verstappen, obviously, and I do believe they are going to bring up Isaac Hadjar. Now, whether this is what Isaac wanted or not for his career, he's going to the sister team. Now, I really think he should have stayed in Racing Bulls, but they needed a replacement for Yuki Tsunoda. So what can you do? There's not a whole lot of other options you can do. Liam Lawson, definitely not ready for the big seat. He still has some things to learn. He's had his ups, he's had his downs. Unfortunately for him, he's had a few more downs than he has ups, but he's learning from his experience. He needs, in my opinion, at least another 2 years before anybody gives him a realistic glance at a higher end team, including Red Bull itself. So if Isaac Hadjar is going to actual Red Bull, who's going to be in Racing Bulls? So they have re-signed Liam Lawson for another 1 + 1 year contract, which is great. Now, who are you going to bring in? Are you going to bring Yuki Tsunoda into Racing Bulls? Are you going to leave him? I don't think they're going to bring him in. So who are you going to bring in? There's a kid in F2 called last name Lindblad. So I'm going to try to pronounce his first name, and I do apologize if I get your name wrong. Arvid Lindblad, I think is how you say his last name, first and last name. He is the next up-and-comer in the Racing Bulls developmental program. He definitely has a really strong future ahead of him. I really hope that Isaac does hang in there for F1, or for the Red Bulls at least, because both Liam Lawson and Blad, they're definitely not ready for the next step up, and you don't want to cancel out their development. You need them to get better. You need them to learn the ways of F1. Especially Lindblad, you got to bring in the next generation of F1 drivers. That's not going to supposedly be announced until tomorrow, but it's one of those really badly kept secrets. There's been some talk from the Red Bull camp itself that there's actually, this is who it's going to happen, and this is what we're going to announce. Everybody knows it. It's not a good secret, so be prepared for that. And the hot topics, I didn't realize this until a couple of days after. This is a sport, right? I am not a professional in this sport. I've never raced any kind of cars, period, all the way from kart, rally, F4, F1. So everything that I say is my opinion looking from the outside in. I've done my research. I have my own opinions, but at no point do I ever think that I am financially invested in the teams. I don't know more than they do. Therefore, I try to keep my opinions, Lance Stroll notwithstanding, I try to keep my opinions as friendly as possible. I don't mean any harm to any of these drivers, teams, anybody that I talk about. It is my opinion. If I've ever offended anybody on this podcast, I do 100% apologize. The reason why I bring this up is that what happens, and this needs to be addressed now, so spoiler alert, because of what happened during the last couple of laps in the Qatar Grand Prix, Mercedes F1 driver Kimi Antonelli has been receiving death threats over the last 2 days for what he did. What did he do? He didn't hurt anybody. He didn't kill anybody. He didn't make any bad remarks, anything like that. Essentially, what everyone is threatening him over is that there was an issue with the car, or a perceived issue, in the last couple of laps in the Qatar Grand Prix where Kimi Antonelli was ahead of Oscar Piastri. What did he do? He essentially let the McLaren driver pass him by. Sorry, it was Lando Norris. He let Lando Norris pass him by, getting a couple of points. This in itself is why he's been receiving death threats from fans. If you're going to make a death threat against an athlete, you're not a fan. You're a psychopath. You deserve to not be able to be on social media. You do not, in my humble opinion, this may upset some people. This may make some people proud of what I'm about to say. To each is their own. You do not, as a fan, have I don't care how much money you've paid for a ticket, how much merchandise you own, how long you've been invested in the team. It is absolutely 100% unacceptable to send death threats to an athlete. It's unacceptable to send death threats to anybody, period, end of statement. It is absolutely 100% uncalled for. The people who are making death threats, in my opinion, need to be off social media 100% forever, for life. And I do believe that charges should be laid against these fans. They've got their accounts. They know who these people are, and they've had to bring in security for the last race in the 2025 season because of what Antonelli did. I think this is 1000% unacceptable. As fans, as amateur fans, professional fans, people in general, we need to do better when it comes to athletes and what we say to them, standing up for them. It's a sport. It's supposed to be fun. Yes, it's professional. Yes, these guys make a living from it. But at the end of the day, it's not a live or death type of situation. These comments I'm not going to repeat these comments, but these comments that were put towards Kimi Antonelli and the team were 100% unacceptable. I do hope that they track these people down and charges are laid. Anybody who is in the Mercedes camp, or anybody who knows Kimi Antonelli who happens to listen to this podcast, Kimi, I'm 100% sorry for what you're going through right now. I do hope that you get through this in a very safe manner. Keep your head up. You're an amazing person from everything we've seen on social media, your charity work, all this stuff. Heads up, not all fans think of you this way. And please, please take care of yourself. With that all being said, let's get into a slightly happier topic. It is a sprint weekend. It is the last sprint weekend of the 2025 calendar. We are in Qatar. Let's get right into it. The weather, as it should be in Qatar, it is hot. It is good. It is also a little windy. What does that mean track-wise? This means that the track doesn't necessarily have as much grip as one would think. This is straight up racetrack. They don't have any public on there, not like Vegas. But because of the wind, it does have a tendency to blow all the rubbering off. It also has a tendency to blow sand onto the course. What's sand really good for? Losing grip and going for crashes. So hopefully there's not too many, that there's not too much understeer and oversteer. But other than that, all eyes will be on Max Verstappen, Lando Norris. It is a battle of the champions. Who is going to blink first is what everybody wants to know. We're going to start with the sprint because there's 8 points available if you win. This is a whole lot of mathematical equations here. If Lando Norris wins this weekend, he will win the championship. If he doesn't win this race, there's a bunch of math that we'll get into at the end of the episode of how Abu Dhabi needs to turn out for Lando Norris if he doesn't win, for Max Verstappen and Oscar Piastri. Pirelli, with this new tire regulation, a maximum. They're making this a two-stop race because of the heat and because they've done a couple of modifications to the tires. Pirelli has stated a maximum 25 laps per tire is a maximum that you are allowed to run. Anything over 25 laps, you will be disqualified. Enough teams have complained about some of the tire pressures and how the tires hold up in places like Qatar. Qatar is a very specific issue. The gravel that they have on the track is not dull gravel. It's very sharp gravel. They need to have a little bit more control on the course. What do? You increase the tire pressure by 1 PSI. That doesn't sound like a whole lot to us and our normal day-to-day cars, especially here in Calgary with the winter. 1 PSI doesn't do a whole lot. But 1 PSI on an F1 tire can mean the absolute world. It makes the tires stiffer. It makes the life a little bit longer. And more importantly, what they do is it makes a tire a little bit tougher. So if you do hit that gravel, you're not going to have an immediate flat tire. You're going to be able to work through it. Pirelli, you have to do 2 stops no matter what. What strategy is everybody going to do for the actual Grand Prix? The sprint race is only 19 laps, so they don't have to worry about that at all. What I think the sprint race is going to do, it's going to be a massive information session for all the teams. What tires are we going to go on? One driver will be on one set, one driver will be on the other set. Let's see which one does the best. And not only do the tires have to be at the best at this time of the season, your drivers and your cars have to be at the best. And Ferrari, they're not there. The last 3 races going into this race, they have been struggling harshly. And even in the sprint race, Hamilton and Leclerc, they are not happy with the setup. Lewis Hamilton especially, he gets out in, spoiler alert, Q1, he's out, doesn't make it. And just the disappointment and the, oh my God, this again, he was speechless. A couple of questions were asked of him and he was absolutely 100% speechless. He does not know what to do anymore with the car that they've given him. He's what his next steps will be. I don't know what Ferrari's next steps will be. Got to be something quickly, and it's got to be something that will help him in the 2026 season. Mercedes waiting until the last 4 minutes of the first round to do qualifying warm-up runs. It was, man, they really left it to the very end. No time to make a mistake. Why were they doing this? Mercedes was essentially the last team to go out there because they wanted to see as much information as they possibly could when it came to what the tires were doing for the drivers. They wanted to see if there were any punctures. They wanted to see if there's anything they could do to make their run better. Worked out pretty well. Both of them make it out of Q1 into Q2 time. And it was about time that they let us know why this team was sitting back and observing instead of taking part. Bottom 5 in Q1, we're looking at Colapinto in 20th, Gasly in 19th, Lewis Hamilton in 18th, Liam Lawson in 17th, Lance Stroll in 16th. Hamilton, Lawson, and Stroll, there's 2 of those guys that are not exactly, oh my God, I can't believe they didn't make it, but none of the 3 were fast enough. Troubles in the corners, trouble with oversteer, understeer, and they weren't that fast down the straight stretch, so it makes sense. If you don't have a car that can be hooked up, you're not going to make it. Moving into Q2, Kimi Antonelli, not exactly a smooth qualifying, ton of oversteer, ton of understeer. It's this sand that we had mentioned before. He's got absolutely no grip to his car. He's getting around the corners when he's going slow, but anytime he hits that gas, anytime he puts any acceleration on it, that's when the oversteer and understeer kicks in, and that automatically, as any safe driver would do, automatically he's slowing down. He does make it out of Q2, but by the skin of his teeth. Max Verstappen, whatever they've done to the car, they need to undo it. Bouncing all weekend long and complaining about the bouncing too. He's not as fast as he could be. He doesn't have the grip that he needs because all he's doing is scrambling that little brain inside of his head because he's bouncing so damn much. Simple qualifying, really good speed, a lot of track violations and a lot of times deleted on this track because you got to get that speed around the corners because of all the understeer and the oversteer. You're going to try to cut corners, but if you cut corners too far, all of a sudden you've got track limit violations. Isaac Hadjar, he gets nailed with track violations at the end of Q2, and he, because of that, is the only reason why Kimi Antonelli makes it into Q3. Hadjar absolutely devastated. He had been warned a couple of times. He was taking a couple of specific corners really wide. He thought he made enough adjustments, but on his last lap, millimeters over the white line, the cameras and the sensors picked it up, and then therefore track time violations or track limit violations, you're not making it into Q3. So here's your bottom 5 from 15th to 11th. Esteban Ocon in 15th. Nico Hülkenberg gets eliminated because of track violations. Another guy on a really good streak, doing really well in the Kick Saba for the last year, really putting that exclamation mark on his name going, hey, I still deserve to be here. I may be aging a little bit, but I know what I'm doing. Bortoleto in 13th, Ollie Behrman in 12th, and Isaac Hadjar in 11th, just missing Q3 due to track violations. Now we're into Q3. This is where the real challenge and the real interest starts for this weekend, because you've got Max Verstappen, you've got Oscar Piastri, you've got Lando Norris in the mix. The question is, who is going to do what? Who is going to blink? Because you don't want to lose a championship off of 1 point from a sprint race. This was the whole reason why the sprint race was created. This is a big challenge for Lando Norris. He is now officially the hunted. He's got to be able to stay poised and get ready for any kind of challenge that may come from Piastri and from Max Verstappen. Max is still dealing with that damn bouncing all the way through Q3, which is slowing him down. He's looking a little slow because of the bouncing. They do absolutely 100% need to correct. He needs to be able to correct that right now. They can't break Parc Fermé for the sprint, or he'll be set to the back of the grid, and that is definitely not something he wants to do. They've got to make adjustments on the fly for the wings, for the side pods, steering settings, all that kind of stuff that they can possibly do. They need to do it right now. With Max being so slow, it's the same old, same old. It's McLaren versus McLaren. Who's going to take it? Is it going to be Piastri? Is it going to be Lando Norris? Or is George Russell from the Mercedes going to come out of nowhere and take it from them? He was close. The last couple of races, George Russell has been on a streak. He's been on a confident run. He's picking up massive points for Mercedes, showing that he is that number one driver in Mercedes now. Now he's trying to keep up with the big boys. Can he compete with the McLaren? We know that they're faster than the Red Bulls. It's time to show that if you can compete with the McLarens in the sprint and in the Grand Prix at the end of the season. So we're going to get into the top 10 now. This is 10 through 1 for the Q3 for the last sprint in the Qatar Grand Prix. We have Alex Albon in 10th, Leclerc in 9th, Carlos Sainz in 8th, Antonelli in 7th. A really, really slow qualifying in Q3. He's still a little bit jittery about almost not making the Q3, fighting the car a little bit, getting used to the sandy conditions. Max Verstappen in 6th. Being able to compete with Max in qualifying is a two-edged sword. Either you're thinking that Max really sucked or that Kimi Antonelli's really, really come up to his own. I'm going to give it a 50-50 split on this one. Kimi Antonelli's really showing his maturity. Max Verstappen obviously struggling with the bouncing in his car. Yuki Tsunoda out qualifies Max Verstappen for the first time this entire season. He goes for 5th. Fernando Alonso in 4th. Lando Norris in 3rd. George Russell in 2nd. Oscar Piastri in 3rd. It's going to be one of those weekends where everybody's got to show up. They got to know what they need to do. And it's going to be a very interesting and very stressful weekend. And here we go. Later that afternoon, it's time for the sprint race, 19 laps. And right off the bat, 4 cars starting from pit lane. All of them hated their changeups. All of them needed some new stuff. Lewis Hamilton, Lance Stroll, Pierre Gasly, and Franco Colapinto. Colapinto is looking for some advantage. He's looking for something new, something that's going to give him a little bit more information. He's dead last, and now he's starting last in the pit lane. He's not going to win anything. He will probably be the only rookie this year that goes absolutely 0-for-0 when it comes to any points, sprint and or Grand Prix. It hasn't been the best. But he knew what was going to happen. A great pass from the start. Because Yuki Tsunoda started in front of Max Verstappen, it was going to be an automatic given that at some point, Yuki Tsunoda will freely give up his spot to Max Verstappen. It was going to happen. Automatically, right off the bat, a couple of corners later, Max passes Yuki. Fernando Alonso drops down 3 spots. All of a sudden, Max is up into 3rd. He's hunting down Lando Norris, pursuing him a lot, pushing him. But then the bouncing starts to come back again. Super hesitant on any aggressive passing. And that was it for 19 laps. There was a couple of attempts. Nothing interesting happened because everyone's in that position where if I fuck up, I'm going to destroy my chances of any points this close to the end of the season, at least for the top 3 guys. Everybody else is thinking, I don't want to do any mistakes. I don't want to wreck my car because the Constructors' Championship is close for everybody else, that these guys need the points, especially from 6th down. It was a timid, boring sprint. It was the least interesting sprint race we have seen absolutely all year. Yuki Tsunoda, 5-second penalty for track limit violations. Antonelli, 5 seconds for track violations. Because those guys got the same penalty around about the same time, but because Antonelli was slightly faster than him, he does finish 1 spot above Yuki Tsunoda. It was a boring ass race, a boring sprint. Top eight guys get points starting from the first. Oscar Piastri start to finish. It was an easy win for him. He stayed in clear air, didn't run into anybody. George Russell in second, Lando Norris in third, Max Verstappen, because of those 2 passes at the very beginning, ends up in fourth. Kimi Antonelli in fifth, Yuki Tsunoda in sixth, Alonso in seventh, and Carlos Sainz in eighth. It was probably the most pointless sprint races that we could possibly have watched. That's interesting on one other point, or the only point that's interesting is it was very much an information gathering type of exercise. You've got all this data on your car. You've ran a specific type of tire. You know what this track is going to do. You know what your car needs to do. Because you can change your car again from the sprint race to qualifying, it was pretty much all these guys wanted to do. 19 laps, don't disturb anything, catch as much information as you possibly can, make the changes that you need. That's all the sprint race was for. It was pointless, a little bit boring, but it will work out to someone's advantage in the Grand Prix later on this weekend. So the sprint race is done, the qualifying's done, everyone's got all their information that they need to know. You would think that it would be a very exciting actual qualifying for the Grand Prix. Yet no surprises whatsoever. There was no spinouts. There was no, oh my God, he didn't make it, except for one person in Q1 that should have been into Q3. But he needs his season to be over. It was a pretty typical fast when you needed to be, strategic when you wanted to be type of qualifying. So we're going to get right into a Q1. We're going to go from 20th to 16th. Colapinto, even though they made the changes on the car, absolutely no better period for him. End of statement. Bortoleto as well. Really, that was a little bit surprising. Normally he makes it in a Q2. He ends up leaving in 19th. A horrendous qualifying effort for him. Lance Stroll in 18th, not using the best ability for that car. The car looked a little bit oversteery still, not the most friendly. 17th, Lewis Hamilton. Put this man out of his misery. DNF him for the next 2 races. Don't make him struggle with that car anymore. And the team is not listening to him. That's the situation. They're trying to make everything look at things with rose-colored glasses. Oh, it's not that bad. It's this and that. And he's like, hey, I'm the one who's driving this piece of shit. It is absolutely horrendous. Esteban Ocon in 16th, nothing too exciting there. It's same thing, Q2, it's pretty much as it should be, 15th through 11th, Yuki Tsunoda in 15th, Albon in 14th, Ollie Behrman in 13th, Lawson in 12th, Nico Hulkenberg in 11th. These guys seem to be going through the paces. They're pushing the cars as best they can, but at this point, if your car is not in tip-top shape, you're not making it into Q3. And same thing, Q3, everybody needed to be where they needed to be, and they qualified pretty much where the cars are at this point in the season. Leclerc in 10th, Gasly in 9th, Fernando Alonso in 8th, Carlos Sainz in 7th, Isaac Hadjar in 6th, almost makes the top 10, battling with Kimi Antonelli in 5th, George Russell in 4th, Max Verstappen in 3rd, and then as always, Lando Norris in 2nd, Oscar Piastri in 1st. These cars are where they need to be at this point. It's very calculated at this point. They're doing minimal changes here, minimal changes there. They absolutely know where they need to be at what time, and they're not deviating from this concept at all. We're going to jump straight into the actual Grand Prix, into the race. This is the 23rd round of the 2025 F1 season. It's Qatar, 57 laps, 16 turns, top speed 342.7 kilometers an hour, distance of 5.4 kilometers per lap. The only thing that has generally changed, that will change from this race to any other, is they absolutely know how many laps before they pit. That's it. There's nothing surprising about pit stops. The only thing that will be different is, do you double stack both cars on lap 25, or do you do one on 24, one on 25, and split the difference? That's the only thing you really need to know about the pit stops. I like how simple it is. There's no real guessing to it, but at the same time, it takes away most of the strategy from these type of situations. It's a very tight race. They're within 20 some odd points. It's super close to see who's going to win the drivers' championship, and you're taking away an aspect. It's for safety. I understand that point, but it's still a little disappointing. Colapinto, pit lane start again. Second race in a row, pit lane start. They're tweaking his car yet again. Fuck. At this point, there's absolutely no reason why they need to pit that car to make adjustments. He's last. Why put more things on the car unless they are super secret parts for the 2026 car, which I don't really know if you're allowed to do that at this point, but if they are, it can be the only reason why they're embarrassing this driver at this point. He's already last. Why are you making changes? Do you expect him to shoot up the grid in Abu Dhabi for the last race of the year? Probably not. We'll be lucky if he even finishes the race, if not qualify last and DNF himself out of it. It's embarrassing for Colapinto right now. He needs a better car. He needs to drive better, but there's no point in pit laning this poor guy. One of the questions before this Grand Prix started is, what is Oscar Piastri and Lando Norris going to do when it comes to 5 lights out and away we go? Are they going to be super aggressive? Are they going to play as a team for the very beginning, box max out? What are they going to, strategy has to change because they have to pit in 25 laps. So it's going to be, is it the ultimate team game for now and take it into Abu Dhabi, or is it literally everybody for themselves and 5 lights out, away we go? Super, super clean start. Strategy that McLaren had, both drivers have to execute the way they need to. Lando Norris, horrendous start. It was good for him, but Max Verstappen was that much better. Lando Norris drops down into third, Max Verstappen up to second place. How is this going to change McLaren's strategy? Were they going to double box? Were they going to put one guy? What were they going to do against Max when they were in position? Now that they're out of position, I guarantee you, they're going to start to scramble and try to make something up on the fly. Nico Hülkenberg, strong showing, wonderful, wonderful pace up until lap 7. He was pushing that car as hard as he ever has. He's on a really good streak. They know what driver he is. He's solidifying that for Audi for next season. When you push that car too far, you're going to spin out. Turn 1, puncture, and that essentially sends him into, he goes in, gets his tire done, he can get it switched out. Then lap 7, Nico's thinking everything's all hunky-dory. Okay, we got that tire fixed. The 25 lap reset starts again. He can go a little bit further. And then all of a sudden he has a collision with Pierre Gasly. Gasly's front left tire into Nico Hülkenberg's back right. It was a 50-50. I don't think anybody should have gotten a penalty for it. It was a driving incident. Pierre Gasly also needs to know where Hülkenberg is, and he knows where he is on that corner. He knows it's about a car width from the apex. You need to know where everybody else is. It's why you've got side mirrors. And it was one of those, maybe let his car drift a little bit too far to the right, ends up taking out a storming Nico Hülkenberg, which brings out the very first and only yellow flag. Full safety car. What do? You're 7 laps in. You can either take your tires all the way to lap 25 and then you can swap them out, or you swap out your tires now and you do another tire pit stop on lap 39. What do you do? Quick, what do you do? If you're the chief strategist, what do? Do you go in? Do you not? Apparently all the strategists on the grid, except for McLaren, and this is a massive, massive mistake, everybody except for McLaren decided, hey, we're going to double stack because it's the car where Nico Hülkenberg's car stopped and from the spin out wasn't exactly super close to anywhere that they could have picked up the car. So it's one of those, we've got some time, let's do a pit stop. And everybody, again, except for McLaren, did. And everybody, 9 teams came in essentially all at once. And McLaren, now they're first and second, and they're putting some serious time on these guys. That's maybe not exactly the best thing they could have done. Everybody, really clean pit stops, no unsafe releases, nothing that. Pierre Gasly comes in. He has to sit there for an extra 5 seconds because he got a 5-second penalty for causing that collision with Nico Hülkenberg. I don't think it would have been a penalty. It should have been just a racing incident. We're on to lap 8, almost on to lap 9 at this point. All of a sudden, Stewart's being as slow as they possibly are. Esteban Ocon gets a 5-second penalty for moving before the lights went out. The penalty, rolling start, he should have been penalized. But for someone to notice that, it was the smallest infraction. Anybody else would have missed it, but the Stewarts, it took them long enough to get it figured out. It was not a good day for Esteban Ocon, and it got even worse because when he came in to serve that 5-second penalty, he gets hit with another 10-second penalty because his team didn't serve it properly. The team touched the car before the 5-second was up to swap out his tires. That is not on Esteban Ocon at all. That is 100% on the team. Lance Stroll, 5-second penalty for speeding in the pit lane. All of this stuff comes around on the very first round of pits because you've got 18 cars coming at the exact same time, essentially. And it was a ballet. It was a very close one. All the cars some of the pit stops were about 5 seconds longer than they should have been because you had to wait for other cars to go out. So there were some drivers that lost some spots. There were some drivers that gained some spots because they were able to get out before everybody else. The strategy comes into play for McLaren. McLaren have shot themselves in the foot at this point. Whoever decided to keep these guys out absolutely fucked up 100%. What does McLaren need to do? McLaren has 7-lap older tires than everybody else. They can pit stop at any point, but they decided to take it all the way to lap 25. They double stack lap 25. Everybody else needs to do another pit stop lap 39. What do these guys have to do for the next 7 laps? These guys have to put in qualifying times in traffic, in bad air. You have to put in qualifying times for the next 7 laps to keep up with Max, to put yourself in contention to actually get those points. This is a massive, tall effort. I don't care who you are. McLaren, and then they have to execute super fast pit stops, and we're talking sub 2.5 second stops. Now, can McLaren do that? Yeah, absolutely. But McLaren is setting themselves up in a corner where if one thing goes wrong, their entire day is pooched. They've already done that now. They don't want to compound on this mistake. So the pit crew absolutely has to deliver. And by God, do they deliver. Lando Norris, Oscar Piastri. Piastri, 1.8 seconds. It was, or 1.9 seconds. It was absolutely fantastic. Lando Norris, 2.1. Really, really, really fast pit stops. Very clean. Absolutely what they needed. But is it going to be enough to hunt down Max Verstappen, who is now leading the race? And the answer is no. They were not able to keep up. Lando Norris doesn't get a fast enough pit stop because he gets passed and he gets demolished in the few opening corners. Carlos Sainz is coming up from 4th. He sees Norris where he is, and Carlos Sainz was a 100% Williams pro today. Car was dialed in, ready to go. He was on rails. It was amazing. He was able to hold off Lando Norris through the first 5 corners and keep that 3rd spot. It was fantastic. Mistake from McLaren. When you come in for the last set of pits, you've got 7 laps to go. What tire would you go on? You've gone from the medium, so you can't do a medium again. You have to either do a hard or a soft for 7 laps. What do? They went to the hards because they didn't think the softs would have enough integrity and the degradation was too high to last them 7 push laps. That is the other mistake that they have made. The hards, they worked well, but you need 3 laps to get the hards warmed up in the appropriate spot where they need to be. They should have gone with softs. They should have pitted with everybody else, and they would have been able to clinch it at the very end of the race. That's why we love this sport. This is why we watch this, especially near the end of the season, because you have no idea what's about to happen. Ollie Behrman, 16-second stop-go penalty for an unsafe release. So everyone is so in their heads and ready to go that a little bit of impatience has a tendency to crawl in. Ollie Behrman definitely was that. He thought all of his tires were on, and one jack stand let the back down and the front guy didn't let go or something along that line, and he nailed the gas, and they dropped the car and the tire wasn't put on properly. Now they had to jack him up again, and in my opinion, I don't understand where this 16-second stop-go penalty was, because he never left the pit lane. He didn't move. He went a little bit too early. They had to put him down. Then they brought him back up. And then all of a sudden it's like, okay, 16-second for an unsafe condition. And he ended up DNFing lap 47. Isaac Hadjar, lap 56, puncture as well. Ollie Behrman, a 16-second penalty, your race is essentially done. That's why he DNF'd himself. He didn't decide to finish. But a 16-second penalty, that's really, really, really harsh. Haas did go and argue the penalty. They didn't end up winning, but it's like, that's a little bit harsh, guys. 16 seconds. Don't even give him anything. Let them fix the car. The pit lane, he never left. It would have been a much longer pit stop. He lost all those positions anyways. So he has to go around. He finally gets out, 16-second penalty. He goes around. He sits in the pit lane for 16 seconds. They didn't show this on camera, but I took a look at the view and they stood there like, we're going to pretend like we're going to change your tires. And they sat there for 16 seconds. They did it for a little bit longer to make sure. And then they hoisted up the car, brought it back in the pit lane, and his day was done. It's like, what a bad way to end a race for Ollie Behrman. He's one of the rookies that he can catch Isaac Hadjar. He's in 3rd for the rookies. He's had a decent season. He had a good beginning. He had a shaky end, and now he's catching a lot of bad luck near the end of the season. With Isaac Hadjar's punctured tire on lap 56, he does able to limp around into the pit lanes. He does not end up finishing the race because pit lane, there's no point in going around anymore. And it's a very unenthusiastic end to the race. Max was well ahead of Piastri. Carlos Sainz was well ahead of Norris, and it made it a little less anticlimactic than it should have been. So let's go through the top 10. This is how the Qatar Grand Prix ended. Yuki Tsunoda in 10th, Liam Lawson in 9th, Leclerc in 8th, Fernando Alonso in 7th, George Russell in 6th, Kimi Antonelli in 5th, Lando Norris in 4th, Carlos Sainz in 5th, Oscar Piastri in 2nd, and Max Verstappen with his 7th win of the season in 1st. He has officially tied both Lando Norris and Oscar Piastri for wins this season. We're going to get right into these numbers, and then we're going to talk about something. Constructors Championships, we're going to go from 10th to 1st. Alpine with 22 points, Kick Sauber with 68, Haas with 73 points, Aston Martin with 80, Racing Bulls with 92, Williams is in 5th with 138, Ferrari's in 4th with 382, Red Bull is in 3rd with 426, Mercedes is in 2nd with 459, and McLaren 800 points on the dot. Here's where rookie standings. Then we're going to get to the drivers. Rookie standings. Kimi Antonelli is still way out in 1st with 150 points. Isaac Hadjar is in 2nd with 51 points. Ollie Behrman's in 3rd with 41 points. Liam Lawson right behind him in 4th with 38 points. And Colapinto and Jack Doohan are still tied for 5th and 6th with absolutely 0 points. Here is where we're gonna really have to pay attention, and we're going to throw a lot of numbers at you. And this is building up to be one of the best circa 2021 Abu Dhabi finishes in recent memory. Drivers standings, we're going to go from 10th until 1st, and then we're going to talk about it. Isaac Hadjar's in 10th with 51 points. Carlos Sainz is in 9th with 64. Fernando Alonso's in 8th with 73. Kimi Antonelli's in 7th with 150. Hamilton's in 6th with 152. Leclerc is in 5th with 230. George Russell's in 4th with 309. Now, here comes the top 3. Oscar Piastri is now 3rd with 329 points. Max Verstappen's now officially in 2nd with 396 points. And Lando Norris is barely hanging on with 408. There is 12 points difference between Max Verstappen and Lando Norris. Max has come back from being behind 104 points to the very last race, which is not a sprint race, of the year. Max Verstappen is an absolute 100% machine in F1. He is, I know Lewis Hamilton's won 7 championships, blah, blah, blah. But with this kind of comeback, whether Max wins or not, in my opinion, Max is one of the top drivers of our generation, hands down, end of statement. I would put him even better than Lewis Hamilton, only for the fact that Lewis Hamilton had such a dominant car for so long, where Max has had to fight and scrimp and show his type of driving intelligence that I think would rival even Lewis Hamilton. His strategies today, and it's got to be a team effort with Red Bull. His strategies today from Red Bull, Hannah Schmitz, oh my God, she was up on the podium collecting the trophy for the team. Give a bow, Hannah. It was absolutely a masterclass on what they needed to do, the timing, the tires, the consistency. It was 100% amazing. It was one of the best races I have seen all season. And this sets up a one race to win all type of scenario. We're going to get into this. This is going to be the math for Abu Dhabi for 2025. I'm going to go through what Norris needs to do to win, what Piastri needs to do to win, what Max needs to do to win. Try to keep up with me. For Lando Norris to win, if he places 1st to 3rd, he automatically wins everything. If he places 4th to 5th, Max Verstappen has to be 2nd or worse, and Oscar Piastri still can't catch up for points. If Lando Norris, for him to win, if he places 6th to 7th, Max Verstappen has to be 2nd or worse. Same with Oscar Piastri. We're going to keep going here. If Lando Norris ends up being 8th, Max Verstappen has to be 3rd or worse. Piastri has to be 2nd or worse. If Norris is 9th, Verstappen has to be 4th or worse. Piastri has to be 2nd or worse. And for the unknown reason, if if Lando Norris finishes in 10th, Max Verstappen has to be 5th or lower, and Piastri has to be 3rd or lower. So Norris has still set himself up for a really good spot. He just needs to concentrate. Don't do anything stupid. McLaren needs to stick to his part of McLaren needs to stick to a cohesive plan and do it right. Communicate. Slow down mentally to move faster physically. Think it through. Do all of your estimations and your simulations between now and next weekend. because you have to get this right. You have one chance. You have one weekend to do this for him. For Piastri to win, he needs to be first. Lando Norris needs to be sixth or less. Max Verstappen can't win. Oscar Piastri needs to be, if he finishes second, Lando Norris needs to be 10th or worse, and Verstappen needs to be 4th or worse. Piastri, it's not that he's put himself in a bad spot. He is in a very difficult spot, but it's not unheard of for someone to come back from this type of, we'll call it delay of progress. He was on a tear, absolute tear. And then he had a couple of weekends back to back where he didn't do so well. And then he had one good weekend, and then he did another couple of weekends back to back where he didn't do so well. And now this is not doing so well in McLaren standards, not F1 standards, but McLaren standards. The second half of the 2025 season for Piastri, in my opinion, looked like the regular weekend for Lewis Hamilton. You win some, you lose some, you win some, you lose some. You're not doing amazing, but you're not doing horrible at the same time. Where for him to keep up with Max on his massive run and Lando Norris on his massive run, he needed to be outstanding for the majority of the season. Now, Lando Norris also had a bit of a hiccup. Good races, bad races, good races, bad races, which is what has put Max Verstappen in the position where he's at. Now, looking back a couple of races, for a fact that Oscar Piastri, when the season is done, they need to concentrate on Abu Dhabi first. But when the season is finished, if either of the McLaren drivers do not win, they're going to have to look really long and hard at their season at where they made mistakes and how to correct it. You don't learn by doing things well. You don't learn things by winning. You learn things by losing and making mistakes and stumbling. And this is what they need to do in the offseason. Now, Max Verstappen, here's the math that Max needs for him to win. Now, there is no what if this, it has to be like this. If Max Verstappen wins the race in Abu Dhabi, Norris has to be 4th or lower. Piastri cannot win. Can't make up the points. If Max is 2nd, Norris has to be 8th or lower. Piastri has to be 3rd or lower. If Max is 3rd, Norris has to be 9th or lower. Piastri has to be 2nd or worse. This math is very doable for all three drivers. There is going to be so much prep and preparation, and there's going to be a ton of luck for whoever wins the race next weekend in Abu Dhabi. It's a nighttime race. This race also has a tendency to have a little bit of wind. You're going to blow a little bit more sand onto the track. You're going to have a little bit more oversteering and understeering. But when it comes to pressure for a one race wins all type of situation, I give it to Max 100%. He has done this before. He can do it again. And he's got so much momentum on his side. He has no doubt in his mind compared to Piastri and Norris. He will and can do this. It's definitely going to be a race that nobody is going to want to miss. So when is the race? The Abu Dhabi Grand Prix, the last race of the 2025 season, the one to decide all the drivers' beans, is December 5th through 7th. Now, Friday, full practice 1, 2:30 a.m. our time. Full practice 2 is at 6 a.m. Saturday, full practice 3, 3:30 a.m. I will not be watching any of the practices. No, thank you. I like my sleep. Qualifying, 7 a.m. I will be so awake for that. I will not miss any of it, and I recommend that none of you guys out there miss it either. Qualifying will make or break and will determine how the race goes unless there's a bunch of crashes, because it's Abu Dhabi, right? Safety cars, red flags, they are part of the race at this point in the season. You cannot count them out. And it all depends on how well the stewards are paying attention. Oh yeah, if the FIA is listening, make sure you have the best stewards that you have, the most senior, the ones who know what the fuck they're doing. We do not want a repeat of 2021. We need any kind of ruling to be on point and quick and accurate. The race, Sunday morning, pre-race 5 to 5:30. The race is 6 a.m. in the morning. Not too late, not too early for some of us. And I cannot stress this enough. This is going to be a race that nobody is going to want to miss. I do not anticipate seeing a blowout. I don't see any one of those drivers just driving away unless something massive happens. And there's going to be more drama midfield than there will be with the three contenders up front. They are going to drive as clean as they know how. Max is going to dive bomb those inner corners. He's good at it, and he's going to take full advantage because from what I've seen, Lando Norris and Oscar Piastri are used to it, but they're not used to it. They don't know how to react. They don't know how to recover from it. Max is an absolute champion when it comes to dive bombing the inner corners. That being said, Lando Norris, Oscar Piastri, they are masters at defensive driving. They know the angles they need to go at. They know they've got faster speed than Max. Max has to drive more technically and a little bit more on the limit. McLaren needs to drive that clean race. They're fast on the straightaway. They need to get those corners right. That will make or break this race for both of those drivers. And with that, folks, that very enthusiastic conclusion, that is the end to the Qatar Grand Prix roundup. Sprint weekend, last one of 2025. I hope everybody enjoyed it. And as always, a massive, massive thank you from the bottom of all of our hearts here at F101. If it wasn't for you guys, we wouldn't be having nearly as much fun reporting on F1. So until the last weekend, until next weekend in Abu Dhabi, keep those engines revving and the wheels spinning. We'll talk to you next time on an all-new F101.